Hi, Thomas. How are you going today?
Hi, Dharam. I'm very fine today. Thank you. How are
Yeah,
you
I'm doing great. Fantastic day today here in Dallas.
in
And
Dallas?
yeah, lovely day. Of course, a little bit cloudy, but I like a little
Okay.
bit cloudy anyway. Otherwise, Dallas can become so hot.
Yeah, we have quite sunny weather in the part of Germany I'm living in. It's quite hot, so it's 30 degrees, and yeah, so I'm looking forward to for tomorrow to go to holidays to France, where I hope it's a little bit colder.
Yep, yep. Look, enjoy your holiday. And
Thank you.
let's talk about a very important, interesting topic, which is, can be useful to so many project managers, program managers, even operation managers. So, managing the unexpected.
Right.
So, I mean, if you are a project manager, program manager, you know the importance of risk management. So you do all kind of risk management plan and identify those risks. You have response plans. You kind of you feel that you've done everything, but unexpected do happen. Sometimes
Yeah, yeah.
unknown unknowns. That's why we talk about unknown unknowns. So what do we do to manage that? So the topic is today's topic, managing the unexpected.
I think first and foremost, this is important to understand that there is nothing you can do to predict the future 100%. There's always something that is unexpected. Yeah? You didn't expect it,
Yeah,
and maybe you have even detailed expectations about the future because you're doing the same thing you've done 10 years before, and you know how to, and then you are disappointed if these expectations are not met. If something happens. So it's even worse if you have big expectations, if you have big experience. And then it hits you the more. So I know the future is not to predict. Something might happen, and so it's also interesting that people say we are making no progress in project management because we still fail projects, and we shift deadlines and we overcome budgets and all this stuff. But yet, we are dealing with the future, and we are trying to predict the future by planning for it, by looking at things that could go wrong. We call it risk, and even if we are very good at this stuff, some things will happen, and like a war somewhere, or a flooding or whatever, and even
yeah,
even you could probably say, oh, I could anticipate that there will be an earthquake somewhere, but when it hits, and either you are prepared somehow or not, so how to deal with the expectations and the unexpected. It's the first thing is to accept life is as it is, and you have to deal with things that come up and you didn't foresee, and so better be prepared. That's the one thing, and preparation includes redundant stuff, or that you are flexible enough to change things. So I'll give you an example from a project I had. We had skilled people on that project, and guess what? We need another one skill, and we didn't have it. So somebody from my team to read a book, and learn very quickly, and was excited to learn something new, and to step into that role. And he did a great job. And it was a challenge. He was supported by the team and by myself. So, and it happened.
yep,
So things come up, and if you are flexible, if you are positive, then you can master everything. That's what we do. That's why we are still here as humans, for hundreds and thousands of years. We survived because we could adapt to changing environments and to changing conditions and all that, and that's what you have to develop and be aware of, that you are adaptable, that you are in the best term agile, and not in that marketing term, and don't be disappointed. Today I was mentoring a young woman, and she said she has a problem with getting friends, because her expectations are never met. And that's the thing, what are your expectations, and do they make sense? It's only in your head. If you don't expect so much or this and that, you are not disappointed anymore, and you can be more open and build on your abilities, and that's the point. So adaptability should replace expectations by sensing in that moment and maybe sensing a little bit upfront, if you can do that. If a storm comes around the corner, there is a sense that you might prepare something for the next hour or so to weather that storm. That's what you do in sailing. You are adapting and sensing the weather and the sea and everything, and otherwise you won't survive, and that's the point. And managing expectations from a project manager point of view, it's not only your own expectations, it's also the expectations of your stakeholders, everybody, And if we talk about stakeholder management, consisting out of stakeholder analysis, so seeing who is there, and what are their interests and what are their power and what are they helping the project with. And on the other hand, if you know who they are and what they feel and what they want, then you can manage their expectations by engaging with them and showing them the way it's going to be, because you are the project manager and you're going to tell them how it's going to be. Influencing them means managing their expectations.
Yeah. So under unexpected events or future events, if we think about, like, maybe you can talk about environmental crisis or some man-made crisis, or system failure happens, or some accident happen. So there are different type of unexpected events, and as a human, as a project manager, as a operation manager, we need to have all the processes right, or defined already. If this happened, what happened? What do you do? If this happened, what do you do? And then you also have communication mechanism. Who what is who will be communicating to whom, and what is the protocol for that, and a plan for that. So it's what you say. You have if something. When I was watching this documentary or movie, a series on Netflix about the Fukushima, the crisis in 2011. So even though they have all the documentation, everything was there, but there was certain situation they don't know what to do. The training has to be there.
It might happen. It might happen.
Yeah, the training has to be there, and people mindset. If this happen, it's not only books where we rely on. What we do. We need to make sure people are empowered to take decision if required in some situations.
Yeah. So I came into that realm of organizational preparedness. When at IBM we looked into business continuity planning, and it didn't only mean okay, the data center is down, what should we do now? But it also was, if there is in this area where the data center, where all the staff is in office buildings, and there's a chemical plant exploding, and this area has to be evacuated for the next 2 years. So what to do? This, how can we continue business? And you do this plan, and you exercise it, and you prioritize, because you cannot continue as before. You have maybe less people, and you have to care about the people because they all have private problems. So there is a science around disaster management, and I'm getting a newsletter every month from this disaster management site, and they are showing a lot of good preparation work, what can be done. And in your era, everybody has a firefighter around, or some first responders in anything, or only fires, Also, if some psychological problems arise. So I just had there's a standard in Germany about first responders in psychological crisis. So if firefighters go to a situation and they see dead bodies, and they have to take care about them and get them out of the car, maybe. So who's taking care of them, that they can mentally, work on these things. And that's also one thing. So if you have a crisis in the project, and maybe one resource gets sick or whatever, yeah, it's a problem for the project manager, but it's not really a mentally challenging problem, probably. But if you have a good colleague, and they have a family problem, sickness or whatever, then maybe you are also emotionally attached to that, especially if you are very empathetic. And then you might need this kind of supervision, as you call it, or this kind of psychological first responder type, so that you just understand you're not alone, and that your problem can be taken care of. And if I look at all the crises we have now, not only in Ukraine and in Sudan, and in other areas, where people are really under crisis, they don't have this first support. So it's heartbreaking. So we in our project, who are normally quite safe, we should be able to prepare and to understand and to stay calm. And you're right, we have the environmental disasters that are coming more and more. We have the earthquakes. We had the earthquake in Turkey, Syria this year. The floodings, now the floodings in Ukraine. Volcanoes are there breaking up in Hawaii. I think something broke up. Heat waves will be coming. So today I read that El Nino is starting now, which creates a lot of heat waves in certain areas of the globe. Pandemics we just had, maybe others are coming. Wildfires, Canada, going down to New York City. So we have it, and if they are not directly affecting your project yet, maybe they will. So you better prepare what to do if you cannot step outside because of wildfire smoke in the city. And what are all these guys doing? And I'm saying, what are these guys doing in the booth who are selling the hot dogs? Nobody will come out to them and buy a hot dog anymore. It's only in-house delivery. So there is a lot of environmental disasters where you could say maybe there is a human reasoning around it, but then there are directly human-induced catastrophes, like wars, like refugees, coming somewhere because they have nothing to eat in the country of living. Hunger is something. Water scarcity, which will be all the problem in Ukraine. If now the flooding tears away all this chemical waste and stuff and oil, but they put it into the Black Sea. What happens to all these countries around that? So we have enough disasters. But what I did as a project manager, I was interested in how can we take a hand on this disaster and what is available. And there is lots of material and processes and help available that you can learn about disaster response.
Yeah. So can I ask you a question? What are the common mistakes made when managing project risk?
Well, I think the most common mistake is that you avoid meaningful risk management at all. I've seen many projects, especially in the IT area, where risk management is rather a lip service.
Yeah,
so they have a risk register, then there is a risk identification workshop for an hour at the beginning of the project, and then nobody talks about it again. Yeah. So, and because they say, and there's something around it, if I do risk management according to the book, and we really care about and have a deep thinking process every week and see what's happening to the risk and develop some contingency plans and all of that, it's a lot of work, and we don't know if it's waste. So the idea of lean management means that you don't invest into work that might come out as a waste. So risk management is by many not seen as a lean activity, and and many people in the team, maybe they're also not interested. As a project manager, I felt that, because I said, okay, risk management is your task, project manager. You do the risk management and we do the work.
Yep.
And so when I then asked them, okay, have we identified new risks? Not really, So that's often a thing that we are avoiding meaningful risk management. This does not happen in nuclear power plants or in space travel or in things where directly human lives are depending on it. Or we have a wide regulation, yeah, where we have to document. So risk management, you can see is a sustainable task. It's something that goes beyond tomorrow, because the risk might come up in half a year, and now you have to prepare for it if you want to do it meaningfully. So if you do risk management, you have to have a long-term thinking, and this is normally not by the let's say ordinary team member who has his task at hand and cares about this week, or maybe the next month, but that's it. But the project manager has to think ahead, not only for the next month, but what is happening in half a year if this and that happens, and then what's going with that, then if it's not meaningful risk management, it also may mean that you only look at a checklist. You also only consider the typical risk. Okay, we have maybe a supply chain risk, we have a technical risk, and you check it off, and you I have no idea about a supply chain risk, yeah, because you don't think it through. And but it's all on that label, we avoid meaningful risk management. So we do it as a lip service, and this leads to disaster in the end, if risk come up.
So look, sometimes it's okay to not pay so much attention to risk management, because it's a kind of daily work. The internal work is building a report or something, very small minor changes. But imagine if you're going to set up something on Mars, for example. You need to do lots of risk management. What if this? What if this? What if this? What if this? So it's encouraged, and that the project manager, program manager, they should spend enough time, especially when you are building something new, which were never done before, something unknown paths. If nobody has walked on the path, you need to think about it, because you need to be prepared. You don't want to go in woods without having right tools with you. Let's see what happened. If that happened, we'll find out.
Exactly.
You don't want to come back with half the people with the half body injured, and now some people may not come back. You need to think what can go wrong, and are we ready for those situations?
Right. Now help me out, Dharam. If you look at all these let's say Scrum projects, where you have a team of 10 people and they work on something, and they understand they only develop the scope over the sprints, and then in the end the project owner and then the team develops something that is of value, hopefully. So is that something that is typical for HR projects, or do HR projects really have the term of risk management?
They do the risk management, but it's not that thorough. They don't go in that much detail, and that is as per the sprint, daily Scrum. They can also identify, hey, what about this? What about this? As the impediments or risk as well. You capture those risks on the Kanban board. But I think they when you talk to them in detail, you say, hey, look, Agile is one of the manifesto is no documentation. Hang on, no. Agile never said no documentation. They're low documentation. You don't spend hours and hours and days and days just to build the documentation. You have to do the work as well. But that doesn't mean you don't take care of the documentation, required documentation.
Right.
Once you, let's say, the reason the documentations should be done, because let's say the key members of the team has left. There are some people to take over. And in United States, I've seen this is actually not a good practice. People can give you a notice and leave the building like that. Offices, organization also do that. They can also give you notice and you're out, but people can also do that. But so as a project, as an organization, are you, how do you control that? So that's where some kind of documentation and risk management should be done, whether it's agile or waterfall or hybrid.
Yeah.
All right. So why can some organizations manage better than others when facing unanticipated change?
Well, I think first of all, it's also a matter of the industry. And we talked about IT versus space travel, and
Yeah.
you have to have preparations and risk management with space travel, and it might be optional with some IT projects, and so this is one thing. You look at pharmaceuticals, pharmaceutical companies are held accountable for the side effects of their products 20 years from now, so they look long term. So it's also, you could also say, it's a long term, short term thinking difference in these industries, in these companies. And then a second factor beside of that, is their ability to be resilient. So even if you have a software company which is not very much looking at risk management, but if they are resilient, if they are agile and embrace change, if they have redundant resources and have a modular setup and are diverse in the team, so covering all areas, they are much more able to withstand any disruptions, any events that might be negative for other organizations, but they will just weather them, and survive it. And one thing to become resilient is to prepare, to have what if scenarios. So have multiple what ifs. What if that happens, and you at least thought it through, you at least prepare yourself that this might happen, and then you already have an idea, and hopefully you write it down. That's so much about documentation. And you write it down and say, okay, what should I do if that happens, and yeah, so even military, now we have these military campaigns in Ukraine. I guess there is a lot of preparations for multiple scenarios, and I'm wondering how much they are using artificial intelligence already for planning all the scenarios, and the value of what comes out of the different steps you could take on both sides, and very, very interesting. So that's why they are in different organizations. Some are resilient, some are more able to take the hits and still survive, and some are doing what they can in the theoretical but also practical way to not predict the future, but to be prepared for any future that may come.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the biggest difference is. They don't, if you don't do the thorough analysis, what can go wrong? Yes, we have to make money, but hey, can we continue to make money like this forever? No, there can be some roadblocks, there can be some issues, or there can be some, disasters. How are you going to handle that? So doing the what if analysis and be prepared for those situations, like, have mitigation plans and all those things. So, some organizations, they are doing really good job. They have a disaster recovery plan, and they have a separate, another organization in other part of the world. So if this happened to, somebody in a coastal area, at least you can go somewhere in the middle. So that's where they are more resilient. And their data centers are in different location. One is something happened, the other one automatic takeover. Yes, these are a few things, some organization can do, and that, others who are not doing it, they don't, sometimes sometimes the people are too optimistic. This can happen only to other people. It will never happen to me. But
well, as I said, I worked for IBM, and almost already in the 80s, when IBM developed and increased the use of mainframes, one of the targets was to make mainframes continuously available. There is no failure, and it was measured by a mean time to failure, and it could be one failure per year or whatever. So what it meant that part of the mainframe were self-repairing, were analyzing what's going on, and if one component tried to fail, they were giving an alert and putting it out of service, putting in another component. This all happened within the mainframe, within the hardware and software. And then beyond that, when IBM looked beyond that, they looked and I mentioned the term business continuity planning. You know, that you go even beyond mainframes and computers and data centers, and you look at the whole environment. That's
Oh, yes.
You also need some power supply, you know, and I understand and I was one of my tasks in the 80s, end of 80s, was to design data centers. And exactly this was a part of it, you know, how to ensure that the power is not failing, that you have reserve powers, diesel engines, you know, providing powers. And yes, as you said, you know, that the data centers are maybe duplicated. So if one fails, you know, the other, if a bomb goes in there, you know, that the other will survive. But then the problem is, you know, how far can they be apart? Because it takes some time over a copper line to exchange the data. You know, it's an interesting fact with a lot of thought going into it. And if you look at that, you know, there are not many failures in these kind of data centers, while services like Amazon or Google, they go down from once a year, you know, and you have maybe it doesn't matter so much, you know, because there's not really death and help, you know. But the big like an airplane company, you know, they have a data centers, and they cannot afford to be down for 10 minutes, because then the airplane where should it land, and how should it land, and how should it could be communicated. We have the film Die Hard, when one terrorist occupies that flight center, you know, and brings down all the planes, you know, just trying to land them below sea level. So that's the point. You can do a lot, but it costs money. But it brings reputation and longevity. Imagine how long IBM is on the market. And one of the points is certainly that they have a long-term view.
Exactly. All right. So how can project managers supply shortage in the face of unexpected events?
You mean how can project managers manage the supply shortage?
Sorry, sir.
Manage the supply shortage.
Supply shortage in the face of unexpected event, and whether organizations need to move into generous approach to manage such shortage.
Yeah. Well, the one thing is, you know, what's now being done in Europe. You know, it's Europe as a economic center. They cut off their supply chain to cheap fuel and gas and oil to Russia. So, okay, what are they doing? They are looking for other sources, redundant. Other sources are maybe 10 times as expensive, you know. So, but that's what you do. And they did not prepare for shortage. So they were making the decision, you know, and then they cut off, and then oof, they had to go to Middle East, to the US, and somewhere, and to buy other stuff. So it would have been better if they had prepared upfront what to do in this kind of situation. Upfront, to diversify your supplies, you know, not only one supplier which can go bankrupt or whatever, but you have a redundancy in your supplies, which is difficult if these suppliers are one source in the globe only, you know. So if you can get your chips only from Taiwan now, and Taiwan breaks down, then what happens to all the chips? So we will see that. But redundancy is certainly one point. What the Japanese do is, and what we not so much do in the Western world, is partnerships, real partnerships, so that you trust each other, and that you say, okay, if something happens, we will support each other, regardless what, you know. And you can see this wording in the contracts between Russia and China now. If you look at that, you know, they don't know what will come, but they know there will come something in the supply chain, or in the and then they say, okay, we will support each other. We have a friendship, and we will trust each other in the long term. So this is something the Japanese companies are doing for 50 years or so, so that That's why in Japan, no really Western company can take a foothold, because they don't have understand this partnership principle, So if Toyota is doing something with Panasonic is doing something with other companies, though they all are a big bunch of old people, who are leading their companies, but also playing golf together, being in the same thing. So the Japanese are very famous for this. There is one big bubble of economy there. They are supporting each other's, and I understand, having worked also for Panasonic for some time, when their partners get into trouble, they help out, and they say, okay, you don't pay this year, next year, and then we have this and that, and the basis for that is a system of trust, which has to be built by relationship management again, and it's very tough for other companies coming. You see Panasonic and Tesla, they are now working together for 10 years or what, still they don't have that basic trust. Yeah, and that's a problem. And then what I discussed before, so if supply chain fails, you can, but you have other things you can get to. You reassign your resources. You are creative. You say, okay, maybe I would need this kind of chip, to build a whatever, but maybe can I use something else, instead of that chip, which is custom built. And that's what what they say the Russians are doing with the washing machines. They don't get chips for their rockets because that's sanctioned, but they're buying washing machines with the same or similar chips, and they're using these chips in their rockets now. So that's reassigning resources or a little bit adapting them. As I told about this guy, when we needed the skill which was not available, so I asked somebody who was very enthusiastic, and he learned this new skill quickly, and we were saved.
Yeah. So look, a lot can be done by the project managers to be ready for supply shortage. Like nowadays, especially after we have seen the supply chain problem for many days, many months, I think the organizations start becoming more resilient by acquiring more upfront material. Now, previously it was just in time. Okay, as long as we have that in few hours, few minutes, we are okay. But now we cannot handle. Okay, if we don't have it in the stock, it can take months and months before we get that.
Yeah,
that's a big problem to the supply chain of your own. Your vendors are waiting. Your clients are waiting, and you can't just say, hey, I don't have this extra. No, what you could have done, that's where the supply, the risk management. You could have identified this as risk, potentially. Then what you could have done something, especially when you know the problem is going on for some time. Yeah,
you're right. And if I were a company leader and looking at this problem, so I would try to partner with a company that is very, very good in logistics and in supply chains, because they understand how to ensure their supply chains are viable, and resilient, and I can probably profit from that knowledge.
Exactly. All right. So how to become a highly reliable organization, HRO?
Yeah, HRO is a term that is coined, and it means that you are succeeding in avoiding catastrophes despite a high level of risk complexity, So examples are nuclear power plants or air traffic control systems, naval aircraft carriers, or healthcare organizations. So, these are highly reliable organizations because we rely on them, that they function, like government, but even if government fails, we still expect that the healthcare organization will persist and deliver their services. So, so the question is how to become this, and well, I think you don't have to become this if you are just let's say, startup doing some work, and if you are going bankrupt, okay, you go bankrupt. because becoming an HRO is a huge investment. Investment first in mindset and culture, but also investment in, you know, all this redundancy and all this compliance to regulation. You know, all these HROs are very highly regulated, you know, and that's for the purpose, and it's good. And in the end, you know, the population will trust them or not.
Yep.
So HROs are trusted by the population, by the nation, by the people. And the one HRO which I have not mentioned, you know, besides power plants, air traffic control, is the pension system in your country.
Yeah.
You know, everybody when he gets older, you know, and there are millions and millions of people who get older every year, they are relying on the pension payment, which should come regularly in the same age. And if you attack this, you know, you will have a real shitstorm, you know, and this happens a little bit in UK for a year ago with this other woman being the prime minister for some time, and she tried to get away with that. Well, look at Macron in France. You know, he changed only the entry age for the pensions, and so there's still riots going on in France. You know, and even Macron didn't dare to put it into the parliament for a vote, but he just implemented it by executive order. So let's see what happens there in France. It's not over yet, you know. And so HRO, you become it by being forced to become it by regulation, and regulation comes in because it's of high value of the population and of the acceptance of government if that you have it.
Yeah, I mean, look, for HRO, highly reliable organization. I mean, whether it's a startup or a big nuclear power plant or NASA or anything, you know, we have to, spend enough. We have to do cost-benefit analysis, of course. By spending so much money, are we making more effective, or we are covering this risk, but at the cost of what? It's all about cost-benefit analysis. And there are some few simple things can be done, like having mindset. Everybody has mindset of taking action or timely action, and they are trained. Their training is provided, required training, communication protocols defined, roles and responsibility defined clearly, with a little bit of flexibility. A few things still can be done. Whether I mean, of course, if we talk about nuclear power plant or something, they have to spend a lot of money to make them highly, reliable organization compared to the small organization. But in one way or other, all organization has to look at, hey, are we HRO, highly reliable organization or not? If not, what else we can do? You don't have to spend money all the time. Few things, as I mentioned, training, cultural thing, mindset change, follow the rule, communication protocols, evacuation plans if required. All these things can make.
Well, I think maybe everybody wants to be a HRO, but if they look into it, what it is, that really the purpose of the organization first. If you are Uber, why should you be HRO? You are having drivers, you're having guests in there, and you're doing that. And if something fails, you apologize or you pay a fee, but that's it. It's not reliable. I won't rely on Uber, Or if you do other, let's say, creating some apps and selling it. If I'm Amazon, am I HRO? Probably not, So. But if I'm looking at a power plant, like Fukushima, maybe yes, I should strive to be that, and it should be in the priority list of my executives to become an HRO. And it's certainly not for Uber or for other companies who are just trying to make a profit over the next year.
See, even when we say Uber or Amazon. Yes, we're not talking about fatal accident, that's another thing. But even let's say the Uber system is down for 1 hour, and there are taxis everywhere in the world, happening, and for 1 hour they will not have their business is out, and that can be millions of dollars.
Yeah, sure.
Yes,
but
Yeah, so that's the financial loss which nobody want to take. And like Amazon, if 1 single minute is down, they have so much transaction failed, and the loss of
Yeah.
trust and many things can also happen as a part of that.
But I think the difference between
Yeah.
HRO and these damages, financial
Oh
damages,
yeah.
is that HROs are not so much concerned about financial damages than they
Exactly.
are for human life damages,
Yeah. Yeah.
and environmental damages and all this stuff. So there is a difference in purpose, and if your purpose is
Yeah.
mainly money making, then you don't need to be an HRO.
Yep. I mean, yeah, in a way, there has to be different category for let's say, petrochemical companies versus
Yeah.
the power plant versus your real estate versus the financial market. They have different way. Let's say financial market, like if in NASA, sorry, not NASA, but like one of the major stock exchange failed. That's another catastrophe. We financially, billions of dollars here and there, and
Yeah.
that has livelihood, and many people go bankrupt, and people
Yeah,
suicide.
true.
There's,
So the financial system also should be an HRO because,
yeah,
on the financing of organizations,
yeah,
they rely on a functioning
yeah,
money system, and that's by the stock exchanges. So they should be HRO. Except, when we look a little bit in the future, although the BRICS states, they are now discussing having another financial system set up to replace the dollar as a primary currency on the world. So let's see what happens with that. So
yeah,
but it has been the last 70 years. It has been as it is. If something happens to the dollar, the whole world will suffer. Maybe not in 10 years.
yeah, yeah. Look, every organization has to see how much HRO they should be highly reliable, or some again they have to do cost benefit analysis. Not
Yeah.
only cost is not only that the profit only, but the human life or other factors as well. So you do that, thorough cost benefit analysis, thorough risk analysis, impact of the risk, what kind of risk we're talking about. Is a minor risk, yeah, don't worry too much. The major risk, impact to the life, impact to the financials, and many things can, that's how organizations has to see themselves, and accordingly they should take the right step towards that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So how to manage change and lead the transformation your organization needs?
How to lead transformation, how to manage change, that's a topic we could discuss maybe in 3 evenings
I know.
all together. So let me give a quick and sweet answer to that. The answer is engage humans. Engage your employees, engage the champions who are in your organization, who are helping you share that vision, and drive it and engage with your vision and then drive it through. And not everybody in your organization will have that enthusiasm in the first place, but you might find maybe 5%, and then engage with them, and ask them to help you, and then build a kind of crusade, in your organization. So this is the most important thing. And then there is a plethora of different transformation and change management steps, processes, how you call it, life
Yep.
cycles. And so I personally like very much the PMI induced transformation compass, which 5 steps, and one of them is, engage your champions, what I just said. And but there's a lot of more around it. So if you're interested in to build a transformation model, look at this transformation compass.
Yep. Good. Yeah, I mean, of course, a simple thing we can talk about, you need to have clear vision, and where are we heading as an organization. So somebody in the leadership, they have to build a vision and show them, and have a clear communication guidelines, some required trainings and cultural mindset change and many things. And yes, it's a topic for itself. It's a big topic, how to do the change management in our organization. All right, so let's move on to the next question. how to build a crisis model in the modern world.
I'm not sure I understand what a crisis model is. I understand that there is a crisis management model, so how to manage a crisis. If you recognize a crisis, and the crisis is a disruption that is really meaningful to your modus operandi, you know, to your business model or whatever. And there are different models, and you could say one of them, you know, maybe the best is a preemptive one, you know. You understand this kind of crisis could be coming, the earthquake, you know, and then you prepare for it, and you educate the people about it, and then, you know, whatever you do, you really prepare for it, not only for the crisis and disaster itself, but also to avoid it, maybe, you know. So that's the preemptive, and the proactive is similar to that. Because proactive is just, you know, preparing and thinking and models and what if scenarios and risk management and all that. Preemptive is doing something, you know, and proactive is thinking about it and maybe do something a little bit to prepare more in a wider sense. Responsive, be prepared to respond, you know, the first responders we talked about. And so have people around who can do something in the first wave. And I had a very interesting presentation at my chapter, actually, from a woman from the Turkish university who researched about the first responders, NGOs, for that earthquake, beginning of that year. And she found out, you know, these NGOs coming with a lot of people, a lot of enthusiasm, but they are not coordinated really. And so they, in the end, in the midterm, they do more harm than good. Well, they are here for the first place. They get people from the rubble, and that's saving lives. You know, they have their value. But once they are established, you know, they get tired. They get rid of resources. They are not coordinated. They are doing double work. So what's really missing in these, and they have hundreds in Turkey, I think 1,000 NGOs working on that. You know, so if don't know, it's a club of first responders in Izmir, you know, and they are doing stuff in Izmir and maybe helping out in Istanbul if something happens. So this is the NGO type when they are not really planning together, when they are not really led by somebody. And I had the same example some years ago. We had I think 30 years ago, we had the biggest train disaster in Germany, when a high-speed train with 200 kilometers per hour derailed, and I think 10 of these wagons, you know, they smashed at a bridge. There were 100-something dead people, and you know, and this was a similar thing, because a lot of these firefighters and emergency doctors and they rushed to the place, you know, and they did a good work and getting a lot of people out of there and helping them, doing triage. And I also had a research there, and they said, okay, the problem was not one of those doctors, you know, was willing to take the lead to coordinate all those. If you have 11 wagons smashed, you know, you should somehow, let's say you go here, you go there, what do you need? You know, this kind of management, of project management, is needed in these disasters. So project management in disaster response is of utmost importance, but it's not really done, you know, in the real cases. So that's something you could prepare for, a crisis management model in responsive mode. Prepare the people to understand project management, you know, and then reactive, you know, it happened, and then you go there after the fact, and then what are you doing? Still, people are suffering in the flooding in Ukraine. You know, it's now 2 days ago. It's not no longer first responders, but now they are shooting at each other again. So, you know, so what are you doing in the reactive mode after the disaster, after the first wave of support has been given and chaos sets in? So these are crisis models. And as I said before, you know, there is a lot of reading and templates about disaster management. And I can only urge people, FEMA in US is very good. So
Yep.
they have classes, they have standards, but also disaster management in other areas like Japan is extraordinary, and we can learn a lot globally.
Yeah. I mean, look, yes, you mentioned about the crisis, and crises happen everywhere, accident happen or something. But if it's not coordinated properly, you have lots of resources get wasted. You have, let's say, first few wagons are getting full attention, while the people in the last wagon not getting any attention. So somebody has to oversee the whole thing. Maybe having a system, maybe nowadays app-based system on your phone can be used for for the all the respondents. Okay, everybody's connected, everybody getting message. This is there. Actually, we built a system, and we built an app back in Australia, and we call it 7CC. That's more about to support the homeless people. There are so many homeless people in that area. So we said, okay, and there are many organizations as well helping them. But some people are getting lots of support, and others are getting no support.
Exactly.
Because they don't have any mechanism to find out who's getting all the support. So that system was to track and for who's getting what, and people can just request, hey, I'm here with my this problem, we are stuck here, can somebody come and help us out, or can give us some food or some shelter. So that system was actually used by a Queensland department, to help during the big flood happened at the time. Because they don't have a system, but this is good. Everybody connected with this, and we can use this as our tracking and providing support and all those things. So nowadays, especially with all these new things we're talking about, app and the web based and artificial intelligence and chat GPT, all kind of things can help us to build more resilient system to manage the crisis more effectively.
Yeah. All right. And if you look at an organization, and again, I can only recall on IBM because I worked there. Though within IBM, certain people were assigned in peacetime. These roles. If something happens, you are the guy who's doing this and that. So it has to be proactively defined. If that's the trigger, this happens, and we have a totally new organization within our location or whatever.
Exactly. And that time I remember they're saying fire warden, this is floor warden, this is the area warden. Everybody has different roles. And if there's something happen, let's say fire happen in the building, everybody act accordingly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's part of the training and forward thinking. That's what as a leader of the organization has to think about.
Yeah.
So what are the perceptions and perceptions and misperceptions of the project opportunity in situation of uncertainty?
Well, yeah, I think one of the perception of project managers is that risks are only negative.
Yes.
Yeah. And you are asking about project opportunities, which is a positive thing,
Yeah.
So often, if there's an opportunity, something positive, the perception is, okay, that's not my business. And by the way, that's one of the differences to a program manager, because a program manager looks for opportunities, and looks for new ways how to create benefits, and how to improve their program. A project manager often has a limited scope and has a tight deadline and a tight budget, so he doesn't want to open up, to new opportunities. And that's one of the backgrounds of these agile community, when they're saying we embrace change.
Yep.
Because change is then seen mainly as a opportunity, but embracing change also could mean we embrace risks and negative things and threats. The point is the judgment behind that. That you don't perceive an opportunity as a risk, and don't perceive both the risk and opportunity as something you should get rid of in your project, and I think these are the perceptions around opportunities and threats, what we see in risks.
Exactly. Yeah. So clarity on, being optimistic good, but sometimes over optimistic.
And judgment, and
Yeah.
so if you have and sometimes it's true, you have an opportunity, you identify an opportunity, and you should not work on it maybe, but you should probably assign it to your steering committee and say, hey, there's a new opportunity for us as an organization coming up, and we identified it, and we are helping you to do that, but what to do about it. It's your decision. So it's the same with a big risk. If there's a big risk coming up and we say, okay, now we didn't anticipate that and we didn't expect it, managing expectations, but now we see it coming. So what should we do, So this is a kind of openness, transparency towards the governing body, and be it the steering committee or your sponsor or whoever else.
Exactly. All right, good. Thank you, Thomas. My next question is, how ineffective handling of risk management and communication may lead to organization collapse during a crisis?
Yeah. Well, it's I would add, not only ineffective handling and ineffective communication, ineffective judgment, and judgment comes from experience. So you want to have people in charge who can make the right judgment about the situation, and then effective handling of risk management means in the end the risk event is, or the risk impact is being contained, or the opportunity is being elaborated, and that would be effective handling of risk management. If the outcomes are positive towards the project or the organization. And communication is a tool in that, as I told you, if I have just a minute ago, if I have an opportunity and I cannot handle it in the project, so I have to share it with the governing body, with the steering committee sponsor, and communicate it. That is there, though. That's really there. So how can it now lead to a collapse of the organization? Well, if there is not a culture of communication freely, if there is not a culture of understanding that there are risks, positive and negative, if risk management is seen as a waste of resources and time, then it can lead to a collapse. And we have seen it in a lot of companies. If it's Enron, the signs were on the table with the risks, but nevertheless, they were neglected, not very well communicated. Or if you see Nokia or Kodiak, and we have a lot of examples of organizations which were not open, which were not honest, which were not judging well, what is this situation, Should I pursue the digital photo format, or should I stick with the paper film,
Exactly. So look, if you don't handle the risk management and communication properly, then of course there can be some very unexpected results and disastrous results, the financial loss, or maybe your fatal accidents that can happen. Some reputation can also get impacted, if you don't. Let's say we talk about Samsung, when they released one of the phone, backup was a problem. I think the battery was blowing out after getting hot. So these are the things, and they lost lots of money because of that. The financial loss. They could have handled it properly. Yes, we can always look back. That's where the lesson learned are. What they didn't do, what they could have done it, and what they will do in the future to avoid such problems.
Well, in a way, you could say any company collapse in a crisis is coming from bad communication and bad risk management.
And we saw this with the Silicon Valley Bank recently. That's what it is. The multi-billion-dollar the bank suddenly out. They lost huge money, and anyway. So that's where the finger pointing is all about poor risk management.
And
Identify the risk.
especially if you see fraud involved in these companies, like with Terranos and Silicon Valley Bank, as you said.
Yeah.
So fraud is a kind of, well, it certainly is a bad communication, because you try to hide the truth and you try to build another narrative, for the stakeholders. But also, fraud includes the bad handling of risk management, because even if you are aware that risk is the fraud is being detected, you are neglecting it, and once you have done something wrong, you build stories around it until it blows up.
Exactly. By hiding something negative, it's not going to become positive. It just can become, much worse.
Much
and
worse.
You handle earlier by escalating to the right people. Now it's out of hands. Suddenly, oh my God, he cannot handle. Then that's too much. Yeah. So if there is anything, other people need to know, or they can support one way or other, communicate with them, talk to them. Hey guys, there's a problem happening. Can you please help us? Or even the manager, look, there's a disaster happened. We didn't deliver the work, the milestone last week. What can we do? Of course they have, we can't do much what not done, but how to handle the situation or something. All right. How are stakeholders involved in opportunity identification in situation of uncertainty?
Well, yeah. First, all stakeholders can be involved in opportunity and risk identification, and you should listen to them. That's why you should. Sometimes, when I talk to stakeholders, as I worked with Panasonic, I met some of the guys maybe once a quarter, and we had a coffee or informal discussion. And then if you listen really, you understand that they are conveying some of their inner thoughts that might be opportunities, but it also often are risks, and they don't say, I see the risk, blah, 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 because they don't formulate it like that, because they are themselves insecure if it's true, and I'm the guy to decide, to judge, and first to understand what are they meaning, So if a customer has a complaint to me, well, this complaint is a risk and an opportunity. The opportunity is to make that complaint go away and make this guy thank me for a good solution or whatever. And on the other hand, the complaint is also risk for that other people start complaining, and then we have a customer satisfaction problem and maybe a quality problem, whatever, and it goes down. So listen. That's the point. How are they involved? By you talking with them, by you engaging with them, by you really not only formally but informally trying to see what they are thinking, how they are feeling. And maybe even sometimes if they don't want to talk to you, this might be a good sign to say, okay, why is that? You insist and go in, though you were reluctant to talk to me. Is there something you wanna share, and then you get to it. But it's also mostly based on the trusted relationship that you have this. And then, once you have that, you have your I always said, and if not me as a project manager, but others, I ask to engage with stakeholders because they have a common view or whatever, they share common interests. Then I delegated the stakeholder engagement and always insisted to have a protocol of it, with the points they listen to, the points that were new to us, even if they are not related to a specific, let's say, WBS task, or so stakeholders are involved, and especially the stakeholders who are looking at the project from an outside view, not in that funnel we all are in, So if the project team is looking at a plan and it's a good plan and they are quite busy, they are not able to extend their view, and see things that are out of sight of this plan. But risks and opportunities are outside of the plan, apparently. Otherwise, they would be in the plan and not be a risk, but certain. And so I think this is the point. Try to spend as much time as you can with stakeholder engagement.
Yeah. So just like we do identify the threats or negative risk, we do thorough analysis. I talk to the SMEs and understand from their point of view. Something similar we have to do for the opportunities as well. Hey guys, we talked about negative risk. What about the potential of on a positive risk? Yes, we do see the uncertainty, but can we do something to build take some opportunity out of this? As the things are changing now, we have a crisis, supply chain crisis. Somebody can build an app which can do a better tracking than what it was. So utilizing that negativity or the uncertainty happening because of this to build out something else. Now somebody say we have a crisis because of chips are not available. Somebody can be, okay, you know what, we can do a programmable chips. Yes, we don't throw the, if we don't use the chips, can we not program them to something else?
Yeah. And this relates back to the point of becoming more resilient in your supply chain by building partnerships. Yeah. Exactly, that's the point. A partnership might not have in that moment much to do with your project and with the supply chain.
Yeah,
it's running the moment. But if you have a crisis, if you have disruption of the supply chain, this partnership might become vital. But you have to nurture the partnership, and you have to share your problems, and then maybe they come up, as you say, with a thing of have you thought about this and that, and I just have seen this and that, and it might help you.
Yeah. All right. So my next question is, what are the most common weaknesses in organizational strategies that present significant barriers to project success during a crisis?
Yeah, I think the most common weakness is the cultural weakness. That there is still a culture of command, of control, and it will never go away. We have to deal with it. Command and control is here to stay because we are living in an economy of command and control, and of money making, and somebody, organization has to be the interface to that economy. And if it's only the CEO, but it's all the middle management and everything, because they have targets depending on this command and control cycle. So this culture then drops down, but on the working level, you need a more collaborative culture, a more psychological friendly culture, a more culture of trust, and not the culture of the how do I call it, of the wilderness, which is on the top. So I read a nice article recently who compared any organization, any economic organization, being built on 3 layers. The top management, which this article calls the psychopaths, because they're only interested in their own benefit, and they're not teaming, they're not working together. And I'm mentoring a executive accountant, assistant, and we are talking a lot, and she said, yeah, so I'm coming out of a Scrum team, we are working together, collaborating and discussing the same topic. Now I'm working for the C-suite, and it's totally different. Nobody trusts each other. They are fighting each other. They are trying to gain the power. It's politics par excellence. So and the mindset to do that, is more of a psychopath. That's what this guy said in this article. And then they have the middle management who are the clueless. So because they don't understand what the psychopaths want, because they are taking orders, but they don't understand how it fits together. And that's to your question, what is the strategy, And that's the point. If you have a strategy on top, it must not be the strategy that is perceived in the middle.
Yeah.
So it's a gap in a strategy within the company. And then you have, well, the slaves down there, and they just do what they want. And interestingly, they proved that if there is a promotion into the psychopath area, it's never coming from the middle. It's always coming from the slaves, because they are not seen as clueless, because they can be fed up there. But okay, this is a very deficit view on organizations.
Yep.
But I liked it because this shows the cultural problems you have. There are 3 cultures,
Yep.
and in each organizations, and you have to somehow make sure they align. And there are few companies who manage to do a coherent structure in that culture thing. The same thing with transparency. In a big organization, who of the workers on the lowest level understands transparently what the top management really wants? Even if you are a project manager, and you're going to a steering committee, you always are surprised in the steering committee, because they tell you stuff you say, what do they want, but they want something, and they ask you this stuff, and then maybe from their questions you can find out what they're really concerned with. So politics prevail, power games prevail, and that's also the fact, and so regarding that, but that's the organization, and the strategy is with the organization, and I think strategies don't fail only because implementation is bad for something, but because the culture is just not good. Understand how it influences the implementation of strategy.
Exactly. Yes, strategy, we can make strategy, we can have vision, everything. But if we don't have proper execution plan, then we fail. We don't have right people, right resources, right training, right communication, that can also lead to a big failure.
Yeah.
So look, a list can be huge for, why it's happening. But in the interest of time, I think we can wrap it up now. Thank you for your, once again, this is our 52nd or 53rd podcast. We have done so many of them together. A lot to learn from each other. And of course, people are learning. So that's important.
Yeah.
So thank you for your commitment towards...
Happy to be here, Dharam. And, just today's topic, managing the unexpected, is typical of our things, because you give me the topic and we discuss some questions, and then still, when I answer your questions, you have to manage the unexpected.
Exactly. All right, great. So enjoy your trip tomorrow, and manage your things properly. Your passport and your every documents with you. Do all the thorough and risk identification.
Yeah. That's a good thing in Europe. We don't need passports. In the EU.
Some kind of ID you should have.
Yeah, but nobody asks for it.
That's really right. You know what I'm talking about. You just do the thorough risk identification.
Yeah. You better prepare for these kinds of things.
Better prepared than sorry. All right, good. Thank you very much, Thomas. It was lovely talking with you. And I will see you again very soon with another topic. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care.